It's time for a chit-chat on Pancake Day.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all. It's time for episode 148 of the Andy and Rem Show. As you can see from the thumbnail, double guest extravaganza. As I remove that beautifully Photoshop sculpted thumbnail, then find out that it is not an illusion. We do in fact have double guestage. Feast your eyeballs on this lineup, folks. First of all, Mr. Rem, your blinds are open again.
I didn't have time to take them down, but I'm so shocked. We've got a AAA star here. We've got two AAA stars. We've got Annie, of course, who was with us last week, but this time we've got a YouTube celebrity, a YouTube magma droth. It is Uncle Atom. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has too long, my friend, too long. When last we saw you, our show was riding high at the top of the Age of Sigmar YouTube show playlists, and then I don't know, we sort of gave up for a while. Now we're back, but you've been supporting us from the very beginning, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we love you very much.
Well, it's a fun show. I enjoy it myself, and I'm hoping that eventually, once things start to get better in general, hopefully. I've got a passport now, so hopefully maybe I can come over. That was the plan for 2020, is to come over to your side of the pond. But maybe, again, you guys will be able to come over here at some point to one of the big conventions. And so, yeah, Andy and I have hung out at Adepticon back in 2013, 14, somewhere in there. I think it was
14, 15, I was there.
Yep. Yeah.
And that meeting was the first time I saw you. I watched it on your YouTube channel. And I think you were interviewing Andy.
You're one of the 5 people then who watches my convention coverage then, because it's if you take like the most if you take the videos and you set the little thing there to say most popular, and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom of all my videos, that's where all the convention videos are. I don't know why people don't watch them, but it's fine. I keep making them. I enjoy it.
You didn't put 2 and 2 together and figure out that Andy was on that episode, hence why there wasn't many views.
Oh, no, it's not just Andy. It's everybody. It's just all the different. Anytime I do any convention coverage at all, it has a tendency to not get a lot of views. So if you're into like trying to make your own YouTube video channel, don't just make it gaming convention content, because that won't work.
I do actually have solid evidence that the presence of an Andy does not negatively impact viewing figures. If you look at the Bad Squiddo YouTube channel, and you see the Sunday morning coffee episode that I guest starred in for about 8 minutes, and I believe that is one of the most viewed episodes still.
I watched that. I did watch that myself. But Atom, how things have changed from those days where maybe you were only getting a few hundred views. Now you're getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and maybe we can pick your brains, take some of your wisdom and share it this side of the pond.
Sure.
Because you're amazing. You're a mentor. Have I been a bit too much so far? Is that okay? A bit too flattering?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't know. I mean, it'll be at the end of this month. It'll be 8 years since I started the channel. So longevity, there's something to be said for that. And consistency too. I've been doing a video every single Friday for the last 5.5 years, I think. So that does help to some degree as well. But there's also just, I don't know, other things like content, making stuff that like if they don't think that you are enjoying it, then that's not going to be something that someone wants to watch, and just lots of different things like that.
So rule number 1, don't just make a video once every 5 years. Let me write that down.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll
The
write that
last
down.
time I think I last uploaded a video, I think 3 years ago. So
And
write
wasn't that just
one.
4 seconds long because you were just failing to do a live stream?
Okay, consistency.
Mhm.
Okay, and content.
So Remington's Pillow Talk, that smash hit series that you started and then didn't bring back, that people have been clamouring for ever since, should be a once weekly occurrence, not once every 6 or 7 years.
I see. And I noticed that Annie, you do a show every Sunday, don't you?
Do every Sunday for 81 weeks. I'm on now.
Wow.
Or 81 this week.
Okay.
Me and Andy were watching some of your videos earlier, and what we were talking about, because we do sometimes look at other people's YouTubes and dissect them. Maybe.
Mhm.
And we were both agreeing that we like yours because it's not got the YouTuber, hey guys, clip, 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 and that you are just talking normally. And the channels that I like watching tends to be that. They're not just like, just
Yeah,
the person talking. That's
I know that there's a lot of different, like, and it's not just in wargaming, but in all
Yeah.
kinds of YouTube. It's actually more predominant in regular YouTube, I think, where if there's any time where there's a pause where a person thinks for a second, they cut that out, and to me, it's actually kind of a bit jarring. So I generally don't do that. I have these sort of jump cuts that I do that are kind of like paragraphs, or I'll be talking for a bit, and then I'll get to the end of the mental paragraph, and then I'll make a jump cut, and then I'll start the next paragraph. But otherwise, I don't try to do too many cuts and stuff like that.
Now,
So
Atom, why would you need to when you've got such a honeydew voice like yourself, right? And my next question is, how do I stop sounding like a parrot and sounding more like, that you're so softly spoken? It's almost mesmerizing when we listen to your channel.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, when I first started off, I didn't write any scripts and I didn't do anything, I didn't have a teleprompter or anything like that. I just sort of talked. And I think now after doing it 500-ish sometimes or something like that, according to YouTube, that I don't know, it's become a cadence, I think, that I just pick up when I'm doing my YouTube videos. And some people don't dig it, some people want to come to the video where I teach you how to paint skeletons and they want me to get it done in less than 30 seconds. But if I was going to do that, I would probably just make, I don't know, JPEGs and put them on Reddit or something like that. I mean, it's not quite the same thing. Um, so yeah, but I will admit there are times when I'm trying to figure out how to like fix a piece of software or do something or make my camera work with Discord or whatever, and I will do a search and I will send me to a chunk of a video, but then I have to like go through the part where they tell you to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, and try to find the information, and that can be a bit troublesome. But it's usually because I'm trying to fix something quickly. Whereas if you're going to be painting skeletons, you should sit down and get yourself a nice beverage and take a good long time to learn about how to paint skeletons quick and easy, the Uncle Adam way. At least that's my opinion.
The Uncle Adam way. So I've put that in my notebook. 500 videos, and then you can relax.
I feel like there isn't enough backlash on YouTube to certain techniques. Look at Annie's face there. She thinks I'm about to like call out any particular channels. But
I mentioned me and Andy watching people's shows.
I'll refrain from doing that. But there are certain rules that all of them seem to follow. And one thing, can't focus on the same thing for too long. Like, picture always has to be moving. If you've got a slideshow, you have to be slowly zooming in or out or panning. If it's your face, you have to occasionally switch to another angle so it looks like you're like being interviewed with 4 different camera people perched around you.
That one just confuses me. I don't get it, because I'm always like, who are they talking to? That guy? There's nobody there. And they're kind of like, and this is what I'm going to be doing today over here to you guys, and I'm going to talk about that. But I like that you've managed to get a big channel without sort of doing all of the tropes, because obviously there's a market for everything and those people are successful. But it's nice, that's not like the one-all formula for getting that.
Yeah, I think that I would probably do more B-roll, and B-roll is the technical term for, like, if you're talking about a primer, if I'm saying, oh, this primer is a thing that you could then spray, and then you do this, and then you cut away from me and you show, like, a shot of the primer and stuff like that. I could do more of that, but there's two things. Number one is I have a day job, and so I only have so much time to make videos every week, and I do it every week. So I just am like, well, you know what primer is, and if it sometimes I will slip in images, certainly, but I don't need to do it constantly, because I've had people say, well, when you were talking about primer, you should have showed a picture of primer, and I'm like, you've seen a rattle can before, you know what it looks like. But the other thing is that it can kind of, again, get distracting and sometimes be troublesome that way, like the multiple camera angles, and it's fine, it's a personal preference, but for me it's mostly like I just sort of want to sort of stick to I want to be able to I want it to be like we're hanging out at a game shop and I'm explaining to you maybe something, and I don't need to show it sometimes as much.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the explanation is important, because I strongly believe you learn more, specifically in this hobby, by doing it after somebody tells you how to do it than you do by watching somebody else paint. Like if you see like a 45-minute long painting tutorial where you see every brushstroke on the pants, for me specifically, I'm like, okay, I got it, pants, blue, great. And then you go to the next thing, I want to see the shorter version of it so I can get through it. So
Adam,
yeah.
would I be right in saying that you're more of a hobby guy rather than a gamer guy?
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy playing, but I'm not competitive, and honestly, I have not played a game with another person. Now, admittedly, this is COVID, like in person, since it was the 14th of March, 2020. Um, I've played some TTS, some Tabletop Simulator or whatever online a little bit here and there, but not very much. But I've been painting a ton during this time, which has been great. I've gotten tons of kill teams done and Warcry warbands done and things like that. And I've been working on other projects as well. But in general, like, I don't go to tournaments. Well, that's not true. I attend tournaments, but I don't play at tournaments. I like to go to tournaments at big conventions and stuff
But
like
you
that.
like a ton of stuff, like you Warhammer Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, 40K, Warcry. You mentioned.
Yeah, so like I really am not playing 40K so much anymore, but I'm still playing Warcry, and I like or sorry, I'm still playing Kill Team. That's 40K Kill Team. But I still really enjoy Kill Team, and I am now playing Warcry, and I also like Necromunda. I'm working on a Van Sar gang, and I really enjoy Zona Alpha, which is from Osprey Games, and it is a kind of near future, kind of post-apocalyptic game that's very cool. And it's one of those miniature agnostic games where you use whatever miniatures you like. So I'm using a bunch of stuff actually from Anvil Industry. They've got a lot of really nice resin, like private military contractor, very modular people and stuff like that. And I like that quite a bit. What else have I been playing that I enjoy? I know there's also, well, I'm getting into also some. I want to get into a cyberpunk game. I want to get into a cyberpunk skirmish game, but I've not had great luck yet finding a rule set that I really dig.
But anyone would think Necromunda was that kind of.
Well,
right?
Necromunda
Andy
is
doesn't like
so much more far future.
Is it different for you? I mean, we almost got into Necromunda. Andy made me buy a warband basically, and I bought one. Just getting into it, right? Of course, I didn't read the book. I'll leave that to Andy, and then he comes back with a report saying he couldn't read the book very good.
I was really into it. Look, I even converted up all my own little gang and everything with the Space Wolf heads on the corpse grinders, the mustache grinders, as I referred to them. But then I started reading the rulebook, and the grey background texture, just the grain and the fuzz, is like impenetrable to start or get anywhere reading it unless you've got like a perfect lighting setup, which is gonna give you a bit of a headache after a while, I find.
That was my final.
It probably looked better on the screen when they were laying it out, and then when it was printed, the dot gain of the little dots that make up the texture in the background get a little bit thicker, and then everything gets a touch darker or something. There's a possibility there, but yeah, I've messed my day job is I'm a graphic designer, but I know what you mean. That book is a little bit harder to read unless you have like decent light.
I would give them the benefit of the doubt if it wasn't exactly the same on all the books following the main rule book as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just doubling down on it and won't accept that they made a mistake.
Did message a bunch of GW people I know going, who was it? Who was it? Is it you? No one's owned up yet though.
Atom, one thing we've all been wondering, I think one episode of Our Pile of Shame, I think it was that you put in a picture and it looked like a massive hobby cave, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just wall to wall of unopened boxes of stuff. I mean, is that a mythical place or is it a real place?
Well, it's not wall to wall. It was just wall mostly. But yeah,
it was
that's
bigger than my local shop, dude. That was like.
Well, it's a photo.
What do you do with this stuff?
It was a photo I took in the down in my basement, and I did set up a bunch of shelves, and I've got a lot of. I mean, because I have a tendency to buy things. I do like to buy things because a lot of times I'll see something, and I've been, frankly, for lack of a better word, maybe trained by Games Workshop and other companies sometimes where like, and I've definitely gotten this way at conventions. If you see it, you need to buy it if you want it. Like, don't go, like, I can't tell you how many times at conventions I've walked past a booth and been like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to come back and get that later. And then you come back literally 20 minutes later and it's gone. So,
should I write that down quickly? If you see it,
I wouldn't write that down. I wouldn't write that down, actually. It's not necessarily a great way to live, but it's...
Everyone should follow that rule. I'm very down for that.
Yes.
You're like the dream guy.
But it's one of those situations where I do find that, like, I do pick up kits because I'm like, I'm going to use this for something else later on, or I'm going to maybe... And I've been doing it for a long time. And then last year, I started cleaning my basement. And it became first a situation of picking up everything that was a kit or a box, whether opened or unopened or whatever, and just starting to put it all on those shelves. So that's me grabbing like everything that had been spread all over the basement and putting it all into kind of one spot.
It looked good, man. I mean, does your partner, is she cool with things? Is she a gamer? Or does she leave you to it? How does that work?
She's more of a board gamer. She really enjoys. She and a bunch of friends of ours back pre-COVID would get together a couple times a month on a Sunday and play, in my mind, frankly, blindingly boring board games.
Like what?
Well, like Mayfair, which I don't think is a company anymore. I think they went defunct, but they made a series of games that are games about trains, like Eurorails, Empire Builder, India Rails, Russia Rails, and they have these big, huge maps of these different countries, and then you use a crayon on the map, and it's like you can rub it off later, and you're building, like you have oranges that you're going to pick up in Florida, and you need to take them to Detroit because they don't have oranges there, and so you have to build track to get there, and these games take 6 hours, and her and several of my friends really enjoy themselves, and I'm glad that they go and do that. But that all being said, when I get my Gloomspite Gits for Warcry finished, then I think that she and I are going to start playing some Warcry because she's interested in that, and she just thinks the Gits are awesome.
She likes the Gits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I do too.
Her day job, she works at a bookstore, and they get different newsletters and stuff like that. And there was a newsletter that has a lot of things about books and trade paperbacks and comics, but then also it talks about miniature games. And she saw the Gloomspite Gits in this daily email, and so she was like, "What, have you heard of these?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, that's." And so she's like, "Well, when are those coming out?" I'm like, "Pretty soon." And so then she likes those characters, but otherwise she's a knitter and a musician, so she also has her own hobbies as well. And so the basement has got a lot of miniatures in it, and the second floor of the house has got a lot of yarn. So it's fine.
Do you recycle? Do you sell and buy stuff, or do you just amass it all?
I do from time to time sell some stuff, but I haven't in a little while. But for a while, I'll look at a game sometimes and I'll just be like, I thought I was going to play this, or I thought I was going to be, and then I'll put some of the stuff on eBay from time to time. But I haven't done it in a while. I haven't done it since before. I haven't done it during the pandemic here. So yeah,
it's a difficult step to take to put something on eBay, especially if it was something that you had big plans for initially, and either you didn't get to it, or especially if you got halfway into it, and then it's just been sitting there with its eyes on you accusingly for months and months. Eventually, you just gotta get rid of it.
Andy, I found that
when Andy gave me the out for Necromunda, it's hanging over me like this thing. I was like, really? No. Oh, I guess I could do a bit of it. But yeah, then you gave me the out.
I've always found whenever
Because I really wanted to get into that. But
well,
yeah,
I'm
that
still
book.
down for it.
Just
I'm
that book.
still down
No,
for it there,
that
Annie.
book.
But I thought whenever I've sold anything metal,
hmm
I've always regretted that. I remember last year I sold an Orion miniature, and that was metal.
Aw.
I don't know. I was just going through a crazy time. I just needed to save some money so I could do some other things, and I just was like laser focused on that. And now I'm past that. You think, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have just sold that one. Everything else, but you know, it's the way it is.
I
I'm
never
pretty
sell anything
harsh.
that I've painted. I will hold on to everything that I've painted, but if I haven't built it, or even if I have built it but I haven't painted it yet, then I can sell it though.
That's pretty
Nice.
much
Tend
where
to
I
hang
am.
on if it's totally painted, then I tend to hold on to it. But I'm pretty harsh with anything else because I think, well, I can just get it again, unless it's something that's super rare. So well, if later on, and if I really want to get into it, just buy it again.
Depends on what
Yeah.
kind of hobbyist or gamer you are. If you're one of those tournament players who every time there's an update has to buy an entire new army and just cycles through a new one every few months, then eventually you're going to run out of space and have to just trade them off to make space for the new stuff.
Annie, you must have so many miniatures because you own your own miniature company, right? And surely you want one set of everything you've ever put out as a personal thing, no?
Saw somebody's room of shame when I was about 20 or 21. And since then, I've been pretty good. So I just went, I never want to get to this level. But again, so I'm pretty harsh with stuff and trying to sort of keep as little things as possible. With my own range, I've got it all in the office. So if I ever want to paint any of it, I just get it. I don't need it in my hobby box. I have a lot in the hobby box.
About on display though, you know?
Well, weirdly enough, I've got everything painted. Well, it's all pro-painted, but it lives in a case, which makes me a bit sad because I used to get them out, obviously, at trade shows, but that's not happening. So they're all just sort of buried away. But eventually, I'd like to get them into some sort of nice sort of thing. But it's space as well.
Yeah.
So I cleared out my hobbies. I do quite a lot of hobby purges. Hey, Saxman!
The most impressive Bad Squiddo miniature.
But currently, in my personal hobby possessions, I have my Undead army. I sold a lot of my gnomes.
Oh man.
Pretty much just got my Undead army. I've got all the main stuff of my gnomes. I've got all the big parts. But yeah, my Undead army is pretty much what I've kept. And now I've decided Andy wants to do some Kings of War videos. Yeah. So I said, right, that's an excuse then to get my ghouls back out. I've told you about my ghouls, haven't I?
No, tell it. What's in your Undead army?
Well, in this one, it's just all the classics. But I've had this Undead army for years, and it's kind of evolved throughout. But then I decided a few years ago to start rebasing it all on rounds for multi-purpose games because there's things like Dragon Rampant. That's another Osprey one, and they're all those where you don't have to have specific minis for it. And I like using all sorts of different ranges. I did think I could use Age of Sigmar if I really wanted to, but it seems to have gone in its own thing now. But ghouls, I believe I have the largest collection of ghouls in the world. Nobody's challenged me on it yet. This is individual variety of ghouls rather than bulk. So I collect ghouls from all different companies, all different eras of companies, and there's even things in there that aren't technically ghouls but fit in with them. And I absolutely love them. So they all a bunch of them got rebased. Before I moved to Nottingham, which I think's recent, but it was 3 years ago, pretty much to today. 3 years in Nottingham, in the lead belt. And then the rest of them are still in the process of getting I've decided to strip them all, because I had them all sort of multi-based for hordes for Warhammer. So now they're all getting their own single bases.
And why ghouls then?
You used to have loads of ghouls in 8th. I can't remember 7th or 8th. It was 8th. You had hordes of ghouls and you could summon more ghouls. So I just ended up with loads. But it was when I was starting to find other companies, because obviously starting in the hobby, I knew Warhammer. And then I remember it being like, oh, there's another company that do ghouls. I just got really into collecting different ones. And then I eventually sold most of them off when they changed the rules again, I think with a new vampire book, and you didn't need 1,000,000 ghouls anymore. But I made sure I kept one of everything, and because a lot of them were multi-based onto sort of like 2x6s and stuff, yeah, they all got stripped, taken off, and now they've all got their own roundy base. And it's really nice being the collection because they were a bit squished together before, and now they've got their own sort of like little plinth. I love them, and I've got so many, and there's still some in sort of blister packs from different companies. And I've got 2 bad Squiddo ghouls as well.
Nice.
I just got really into it, so I must find all the ghouls.
If anyone,
So
wants to challenge your ghoul supremacy and put forward a collection of their own, then they're free to, of course, post it on the Andean Rim Show Facebook group or in the Discord server. And speaking of the community, I'm just going to whiz through the chat here very quick. Some of the standout comments. So, Mr. Remington, you were asking how to make your voice a bit more welcoming to people. Cedar says gargle honey. So, some advice for you there.
Atom says no. He sounds... Atom, I think you're more of a roasted coffee man, you know?
I'm honestly not a fan of honey. I mean, I like sweets, but there's something about honey that I just don't seem to enjoy. So I wouldn't... gargling, it sounds terrible, really. It sounds like you would choke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds sticky and... yeah, weird.
What about mead? Gargle mead.
Mead.
There's honey in mead, I think, right?
Mead is honey.
Oh.
I would
just
imagine
honey.
that there has been a mead
Alcohol honey.
a mead gargling festival has probably taken place at some point.
I don't know. I think, Atom, I think your voice is the sound of contentment. That's what it is, man.
Well,
It's
I
just
appreciate that.
Inner peace and contentment.
I think it's important. Like, one of the reasons that I push the hobby like I do and tell people to get into it and things like that is because I think that it's a stress reliever, at least for me, and I think a lot of people. I think I was just talking to someone recently, and she's an artist, and we were talking about some stuff, and she said, when I meet people who say that they don't have any kind of hobby, I just don't understand. And I'm like, I don't get it either. You got to have something, you know.
What do you do?
whether it's playing music or painting miniatures or fishing, even all kinds of different things out there. Some of them are more creative than others, but yeah. And so I've always tried to make the channel. Well, when I first started, I frankly was kind of floundering and just sort of making videos about wargaming because I liked wargaming, and I was trying to learn how to do video editing and such. And then about a year and a half in, I thought, I should probably have a mission for the channel. And then I kind of set on the idea of trying to get more people into the hobby, not just because I would like to have more opponents and more people buying products, which then get more products made and all that kind of stuff, but also because I think it's a really good idea to have some sort of hobby that pulls you away from just watching, TV all the time and all
Well,
that kind of
Atom,
stuff.
I guess in my mind, the next question. I mean, look, Annie took the leap probably quite a few years ago now, and she's made her hobby her life. Right? It's your business. Would you ever consider that?
I mean, it's a side business right now. It has been for probably the last several years. It's my second job, is making YouTube videos. So there are certainly plenty of times where I would like to go downstairs and paint some stuff or build some stuff, but I've got to get things edited. I've got to get emails answered, and all that kind of stuff. So it is a business to a degree at this point. Obviously I have Patreon supporters, which I am thankful for, and I've got some ad revenue coming in from views and stuff like that on YouTube and things like that. And I've started doing Twitch back in late June, and now I do that twice a week, and so there's some income that comes in from that. But it's a side business, but it is something you spend the time on, and it does keep me away from sometimes just doing the normal hobby stuff. But I still the benefit, especially with Twitch, is I almost am guaranteed at least 6 hours of hobby time in a week, because I do 3 hours on Monday night last night, and I do 3 hours on Friday morning. So I'm working on a Terrorgeist for the first time, and I'm getting him done because I'm going to be using him in Warcry. So I started on the wing membranes first last night.
Will there be a Ghoul King riding the Terrorgeist?
Nope, just the regular one.
Oh, very disappointing there. Now, on the topic of Patreon, though, Roshi in the chat says, I'm a proud Patreon supporter for both Uncle Atom and Andy and Rem. So this show is very special to Roshi, apparently. However,
A Venn diagram.
if you have also made purchases from Bad Squiddo, because if you haven't, then that means there's still a piece
The
of this
third Venn diagram.
live stream
so
pie
piece.
that you haven't
Yes.
tasted.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get in on that if you want to have the full episode 148 of the Andy and Rem Show experience.
Hey, there might be people that have come to this new, and I haven't actually had an introduction or anything. So they might be like, "Who is this woman?"
They must know who you are by now. You've been on
Well,
like
they-
8 times.
I was on a podcast recently, and then I saw somebody post about it on a forum, and it said, "Oh, they had these people on, and I don't even know who the hell this woman's supposed to be." Hello, I'm Annie from Bad Squiddo Games. You should check us out. We make minis. Yay!
Wouldn't you know it, there's actually
You might not know.
links in the description to all things Bad Squiddo Games. I think there's a link to your YouTube, and right at the bottom of the description there's a link to your website as well, where people should of course be using the Andy2D6 code to get free chicken with every order.
I was trying to pull the "Hello, I'm new to the hobby" in the Kings of War group earlier, but no one bit, so I was disappointed.
Now, a couple of people have noticed actually that on the screen for quite a while now, I was thinking that the Warhammer community had had enough screen time, so I switched it over to a picture of a pancake, because it is of course Pancake Day. And before we talk about the pancakes in this house, Mr. Remington, did you observe Shrove Tuesday in the traditional manner this year?
It's actually today. Oh man, I've lost. Yeah, I did buy some pancake mixture. You just add water to this thing and you mix it up, and then. But I didn't think it was until like next week or something. I'm totally out of touch.
Mick,
I've missed it basically.
biggest crime.
So-
Well, there were pancakes aplenty in this house, because the picture you're looking at right now is a pancake with cheese and bacon on it.
Wow.
Was the
savoury
photo I
pancake.
took too graphic?
Probably. Yeah, we're trying to get the best possible pancake pictures, and these are the ones that were chosen. So that was the first course of pancakes. Then
Mine had a little opening on it.
I went on to golden syrup covered pancakes. Mm-mm. So there you go, pictures of pancakes, everybody.
Not putting my blue brick walk up then. No. They
You're
were
free
very
to
nice
share that
pancakes.
around on social media, and you'll want to save that so you can show people on Sunday morning coffee, surely. Don't want it spoiling right now.
Yeah, if they see that, that'll be recycled content.
So
Okay.
Andy, how are
Very
you
nice.
going to get this from pancakes to like wargaming stuff now?
Nah.
Well, speaking of things that have flattened out, how about Remington's investment portfolio? So if we look right here, you want to talk us through these charts that we're looking at, Mr. Remington?
Well, I wouldn't call it a portfolio. You're looking at the one share I have of Games Workshop, and I'm just keeping it for fun and seeing what happens with it now. That is the 3-month chart, and you can see that it peaked last month at £117, and it's just been on like this sort of downward kind of slide, I guess. Ever since they announced that they'd just made record profits, everyone thought, well, let's sell our
Cash out.
shares then.
Ever since you
So-
cashed out, you mean?
Yeah.
People watching this show saw that Remington had jumped overboard, and they thought it was time to start abandoning the ship with him.
Well, it was for a bigger plan, which I one day will reveal to you. But, you know, if you look at the next picture I sent you, Andy, I think it will look far more bullish when
There
it
you go.
comes to Games Workshop. There we go. So that now this is the year chart, and you can see that dip is actually just a natural, what they call,
Loop.
no,
Ebb and flow.
Loop.
ebb and flow, exactly like the tides of the water. But if you drew a line from that bottom, which was, I believe, March the 2nd in the pandemic scare, and you draw it would be like a 45-degree angle going up there, and you can see it's almost staying true to that line there. So long term, I'm very bullish. I think this is it's very, the fundamentals are strong, if not the pumpamentals. But there you go. So that's where we are. I'm 27% up.
Okay, and now let's just go through all this new stuff briefly, because this was on the screen for a long time, and we've got this miniature. Now this, to
Oh.
me, this screams Remington. If you had a bit more like potpourri on the base, something that smells and is eventually going to fall off the base and expire and start rotting, it would look
All
very
day
much
long.
like a Remington classic.
Andy, when I read this, it says Cornothi, and I thought, oh, is she gonna have like hooves and a tail and stuff? But I think they've stayed true to the wood elf vibe. I love it. She looks like Catherine Winwick if she was a wood elf. Catherine Winwick from Vikings. I think this
Winnick.
is an awesome figure. Yeah, sorry, Winnick. Silent W. Thank you. But yeah, apparently her just as she left her tribe that was all leaving because they had lost against Nurgle, she wanted to stay and fight, and she took a piece of the Oak of Ages. She took a piece of bark, and from that piece, she's made the shafts of her arrows, which should pierce the heart of the undead and lay them to rest forever. So I love it.
Are ghouls
Ghouls as
undead
well.
again?
Especially ghouls.
I haven't followed AOS. Ghouls sort of rotate between whether they're classed as undead or not.
Well, ghouls are their
you know
own
what they are currently?
faction, man.
They're part of
But
the
I mean,
undead faction, but actual ghouls in most fantasy settings, I don't think they're technically dead.
Yeah, because they're just raved people.
Yeah.
But sometimes they sort of flip the rules in and out. But
they're pretty,
like that model.
Pretty much like living zombies, kind of, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ghouls. So there you go. We've got an elf. Next, we've got someone else with a bow who's a little bit more snaky looking there at the top, because we've got a nice close-up of all these endless spells, which we had a bit of a debate on a previous episode, which one was the most impressive looking. And in the thumbnail, of course, Remington's head was on the end of this magnificent blood snake. And do we prefer that one? Do we prefer the swords swirling around with the blood dripping off them like syrup from a pancake? Or
they're a bit strange.
Or do we prefer, I like this one, the hand grasping, kind of, it looks like it's got jewels on it, but you can also see that doesn't look like jewel though. That actually looks like a bit of organic material of the heart there that's being clutched by this giant metal magical gauntlet, squeezing that magical juice out of it.
Andy, it looks so flat though, doesn't it? It looks like it would look good on a banner, but I think I have to see it in real life.
Wait till we get the 360 of it.
I was going to say you can...
So what do we think? Thoughts on which one's the nicest? Who wants to go
Snake.
first?
I think I like the snake, yeah.
Snake.
Yeah, I think the snake, but with a different colour scheme, with more of those the greens and the purple. The greens mixed with it, like
something that would
It's a
contrast
blood
against the
snake.
blood a bit more.
yeah, like rattlesnake kind of vibe. That would look cool.
It's a blood snake.
Oh,
Well, you've got the blood. The
A green
snake.
drippy massive one when they first come out, and I really enjoy painting them. They're really nice to paint. Bit of fun.
Yeah, definitely, and you get them done really quickly. So I think I'll probably be getting these. Although I would have liked some new models, some more models in the range of Daughters of Cain, but there you are.
Next, now this is obviously 40k, so we don't linger on it too long on this show, but we do have the Atom Smasher himself with us. So, bit of a Kill Team fan. I am not, as people may know, but Necrons with skin.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the flayed ones. I never liked the old sculpts of them, and when I started getting into Kill Team and wanted to build my own Necron Kill Team, I wanted to add flayed ones into it, but I decided I had to then make my own flayed ones. So I just took a bunch of Necron warriors and I basically gave them like improvised weapons because I didn't have claws. So instead, I took it from the aspect of they were just having improvised weapons. One of them had grabbed basically like lightning claws from a space marine that they had downed. Another one had just like, I think it was just like a bunch of pointy pieces of metal that were like wired to the end of their arms. And then to make them have skin, I used not liquid green stuff, regular green stuff, and made it very, very, very flat, and then made strips of skin to kind of hang off of them, so they had that flayed look.
What's a flayed one? What is this flayed one? Why would a metal cyborg creature want to put flesh on? Or is it a human that's been flayed and they realize, no, it's not really a human, it's this robot underneath?
From what I understand, it has something to do with these particular Necrons kind of go crazy, and then they decide that they kind of want to become humans or something, or they want the flesh on them. It's some sort of wackadoo sort
Like a
of.
Terminator, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, but they're not good at it. Like a Terminator, you could look at and go, "Oh, that's a dude," but these guys you never would look at and go,
So
"That's
like
that's a
sort of
person."
gluing ham to the robot face and stuff.
Yeah.
I will say it's not recommended to use actual human skin to convert flayed ones. So now that there's nice plastics out there, much better. There'll be far fewer people with like wounds where they've been peeling skin off themselves to fashion their own realistic flayed ones.
You
They
really
look
have to varnish that to make it stay. Really, a
Right.
Mod Podge.
They look like sort of close combat creatures rather than shooting from a distance, right?
Yeah, they are.
Hey,
That craziness, because I like the last, the most recent, which was probably still years ago, ghoul lore I read from GW was that they were very delusional and had these visions of themselves as like kings and princes of grandeur, and it was just lots of bones and goo and all that. So I like that flayed one thing. Reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Bit
Are they
of,
kind of like
madness.
berserkers? They look like they go a bit crazy.
now, next. Controversial, this one. So, we have a space marine who goes by the name of, if we go to the top, Uriel Ventris. So, this guy, let's have a look at his face very closely, because this is the model that's been presented to us now. You think, okay, hair looks a bit weird, nothing too strange about it, but the previous pictures of this model we saw look like this. And I don't know, but the general consensus seems to be that this face looks a little bit more... What's the correct term here? For a start, it looks like he's cut his own hair, in my opinion.
He looks a bit more Friar Tuck, I think.
And he just doesn't look that intimidating. The new one, much angrier. Is there something in the brows, maybe? There's something else going on there.
Maybe there's optional heads then, no?
But he's also got this piece of Space Marine tech on the side of his face that helps as well. And under the eyes, I'm not sure whether it's just a slightly different paint job. Let's have a closer look. It just looks angrier. So I don't know whether they said, nope, this guy looks too silly, take him away. They've changed the hair, definitely.
I think I like the Friar Tuck guy better. He's a bit more characterful.
But this...
He disobeyed the law of Astartes then, right? But he's still a good guy.
But this guy's face has had a much more positive reaction to when people initially saw this one.
They might have painted a print or a first cast, like a resin cast or something, and then changed their minds. So then they would have changed it again before it was put into production. Assuming it's in plastic, I guess, like everything. So I don't think they would have made it and then changed it. So
Yeah,
I know it's pretty common. I don't know too in depth about the GW process, but I imagine that they do the same as everyone else of kind of printing the painting, say like the prints or some test resin casts. So then you can get it painted before the production's made. So they probably did that and then went, actually, let's tweak that.
He might be resin, possibly, because
Forge World.
Eisenhorn was, and that was because it was, I think, limited quantities. Eisenhorn was resin. So was what's her name? Severius Kane? Is that her name? She's I think a commissar. I think that's
that a limited edition one then. This dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if he's limited edition. He's kind of the main character of a lot of the Space Marine Black Library books. As I'm pretty sure where he comes from as far as the name is concerned. So, yeah.
In the chat, Stu says, GW changed Uriel's head because the first one looked like Blackadder the First.
That's what I was thinking, yes!
Which is a legitimate thought. There's definitely a bit of that going on. I wonder if he has the
That's
same kind of codpiece collection that Blackadder the First had.
Atom, are you a fan of the Horus Heresy?
I've read probably the first 4, maybe 5 books, and then maybe a smattering here and there. But I've read some of them, and I've read a bunch of other Black Library stuff. But I've read, and recently within the last year or so, I've listened to a bunch of the first books again. Originally, I had read them, but then I started listening to them while I would be hobbying and
Mm.
stuff like that, because a lot of those audiobooks weren't available on Audible, but now
Mhm.
they are. So yeah,
Any favorites?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, my favorites are still the Eisenhorn series and the Ravenor series. Both of those series for Black Library, I think, are, in my opinion, some of the tops. I just really love, like the Space Marine books are fine, and but the Space Marines kind of do what Space Marines do. Inquisitors have all kinds of different avenues for storytelling, and there's a lot more going on, so they can be in a lot of different places and stuff like that. Like Space Marines are never like in an alley behind a bar or anything like that, trying to get information out of somebody. They're on a battlefield shooting other
Mhm.
soldiers in the face, and that's basically the kind of the game. So yeah, I do prefer those books, the Eisenhorn and Ravenor books separately, or they're 2 collections, and I prefer both of them.
Gotcha.
Next. Now, I think it was last week or the week before we were talking about the history of beastmen a little bit, and somebody sent me
Wow, I had
these.
one of those. I recognise one of those, Andy. The gargoyle in the middle. I had that miniature in like 1984 or something.
These are like ye olde ancient Chaos
Wow.
Beastmen. So September
Like
1985 is mentioned there. So Beastmen were first released in July 1984, which is before I was born even.
And me.
Had to sneak that in there.
Let's see that in.
Look at these, 45p each.
Yeah.
Aww.
I had that guy on the top right as well. I had that miniature. They had little pewter bases as well.
I like that I can't even cast them for 45p each now. All times have changed.
Look at this ostrich man. Look at the neck on that.
Wow. What do you think? Do you prefer the Beastmen being this diverse? Or do you think it's just better they're stuck with sort of goats?
If you're going to make a coherent army, then I think it's better that you stick to just a smaller number of species rather than this, like, all over the place. But you can't beat the character.
I do
Fenris
like
have
the
got a
goats,
bunch.
though.
Fenris have
faces
got
are
a
great.
bunch of different types of beastmen, and they've got a slugman in there that I really like.
You can't beat a
I
bit
saw
of
that somewhere actually. Slugman.
a bit of
think
eagle
you-
man, a bit of walrus man, seahorse man. They're like rejected superheroes, aren't they?
I think
Slugman.
they went with the goats because it has more of like a satanic kind
Yeah.
of feel to it, doesn't it? Right?
Slugman though. Ostrich man, yeah, kind of like want to find that now.
Does Slugman have legs, or does he just sort of slither around?
He had legs and then like a slug head. I've got it somewhere. But yeah, there's like Batman, which isn't Batman, and
Look at
various
that.
stuff.
Ostrich man on a horse, and the horse has an extra tiny leg sticking out of its neck.
Do you know what? Looking at these pictures, I think these probably were influenced by a British comic, 2000 AD, Strontium Dog, because a lot of the Strontium Dog mercenaries were basically those sort of beastmen.
Yeah.
Got pictures here: turtle man, tiger man, camel man.
I want all of these now.
Look at
Slime
Hogman.
arm.
This is what a great find, Andy.
Oh
Well done.
man.
I didn't find it. I'll tell you who found it in a minute when I go and check. But it's a bit small.
Has anyone got them that's watching? Can you sell me them?
Anyone that's got any of these? These have names as well. Hard hoof.
I need to paint my Slugman now.
Can you get these recast? Andy?
No, that's illegal.
Oh.
And it's just something that comes up in groups all the time. I'm like, no, it's illegal.
Even like
so
those
just,
ones from '84.
No,
What he could have meant,
nope,
Mr. Remington
nope.
could have innocently meant, is there anyone out there that owns the rights to cast these now?
Yeah, that's what.
No, nope. All the GW stuff, it's all just retired. I know some things ended up at Foundry, but I don't
Mhm.
think any of that did.
So they
Um,
basically just close the book and say, "Look,
so
that's
yeah,
it."
they're gone. The molds probably wore out and stuff like that.
Ooh.
But yeah, I just want to know if anyone's got them around.
I wonder if did they store the masters from things that old, do you think?
I don't think so. They've probably got it somewhere in a cabinet or something. They do those made to orders, but they don't do it for stuff that old, do they? Which is
No,
a
no.
shame.
And
But
don't give Remington ideas, or he'll be launching like a midnight raid on GWHQ to try and find all the old molds.
I wonder where they keep them. Do you think they keep them at the the Warhammer World?
or like at the in a safe somewhere, a mysterious location.
Wouldn't it be good if us four, like the four characters from Vermintide, went there one night and tried to find them? It was such a great adventure, wouldn't it?
It would last about 2 minutes until everyone got arrested, I would say.
Like one of those Mission Impossible things. We could just, all wear black.
I'll be looking for the Marienburg landship. That's the one I always wanted, man. And I heard, I don't know if this is right or not, but the mold got broken for that. I don't know. It's a fine
Be
casting.
molds. I almost certainly there won't be molds for that sort of stuff. And when you make the mold, especially in the olden days, the master would be destroyed, but there'd be submasters. So I assume that somebody somewhere has maybe got a little box of submasters, but
Why
stuff
would the
happens,
master
so a lot
be?
of them would have just been dead. The vulcanizing process kills them. You just end up with this little charred remains. I've got a little box of sadness of my own stuff. But nowadays, use silicon molds quite a bit, and that's when they come out almost exactly the same. But from all that stuff years ago, I imagine a load of it is just lost to the realms.
So
But
Did you
yeah,
say vulcanized?
vulcanize.
that's where you give
Yeah.
them pointy
Wow,
ears, I believe.
Because the planet Vulcan gets sort of destroyed, doesn't it? It's vulcanized itself.
Spoiler alert. Now, I can tell
Some
you that
companies do have. There were in the very early days some sort of, I don't know, split offs or whatever. So Foundry have a lot of old GW stuff, and because of the owner situation, and I think alternative armies might have some. But yeah, other than that, it's very illegal for anyone to be recasting or doing any shenanigans like that, or even resculpting them. Still not. So yeah, if anyone's got any actual ones that aren't recast or dodgy or anything, I want Camel Man and Ostrich Man.
now I can
Do you know-
confirm that this link was sent to me by Drunken Deer on Discord,
Right.
so you know who to
Do you know-
thank for this top quality content.
Andy, you know, you and I went to Warhammer World and we went to the gallery, didn't we? I've been a few times over the years, and I don't know. Part of me was hoping that you'd get to see every single miniature they've ever made.
I was complaining
you know,
about this recently. As you
You
go in,
don't.
there's a little room with the really old stuff and those old dioramas,
Yeah,
and that's what got me into it in the first place.
yeah, me
And I'm
too.
like, and then there's only a tiny bit, and then it's all modern. Like, I
Yeah,
wanna
and you
see
get like
more of the-
10,000 Stormcast and
Yeah,
10,000
like-
Ratmen in a diorama.
Yeah, I want to see more of the stuff that you can't see anywhere else. That you kind of journey through the history of it.
I think they've probably everyone will say, "Can I have that model?" And they'd have to keep telling them
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
they don't
that's
do that
true.
anymore. They've got
Those really
vulcanized.
old ones on the inside, though, like at the start of it, they're like sort of not 2D, but they're very sort
Yeah.
of flat. That
Have
can
you
flip
been
think that
there, Atom? Have you been there?
No,
You-
I haven't. I was hoping to actually in 2020, but hopefully sooner versus later. I would like to check it out. But do you think
Well,
they
when
just
you
didn't
do-
hold on to a lot of that stuff, Annie? Do you think they just didn't like store it and keep it and
all
because they
the
just didn't
things.
think? Yeah. yeah.
I know there's various tales. and I'm not sure which tales I can tell, but I know there's some would have been lost along the way. Some will be. I know there's just like areas that have tons of all that stuff, probably all sort of boxed away. But the exhibition does change around quite a bit. So I know the lady who runs the exhibition. She's very nice.
I'm a little amazed that
they-
they haven't created an art book that shows off like the early days of the company and pictures of
Yeah.
very, very old models and all that kind of stuff. Because I would think that would probably sell.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I love the
there's a
old
job
models.
for you. Atom, that you should go there and pitch that idea, man. You could be the keeper of the secrets, right? You could be the keeper of the compendium.
I don't know that I know, frankly, a ton about really old Games Workshop. I didn't really get exposed to Games Workshop stuff until probably, I was in college, like 91. A friend of mine taught me to play first edition Space Hulk, and that was my first kind of like touchstone into anything Games Workshop. So stuff previous to that, I don't really know much about at all.
Thinking about the exhibition again, I'm guessing that the reason that they don't like you said, people will ask to buy stuff that doesn't exist, but from a cynical perspective, you want people to walk through that exhibition and think about all the things they're going to buy. So when you have those big dioramas of all the Space Marines and stuff, you're like, oh, I'm going to start this army now. I'm going to start this army. Whereas people going, oh, look at those old Bretonians. Oh, I remember Ostrich Man. They can't leave because you leave via the gift shop. Brilliant. You can't leave and buy an Ostrich Man. So maybe that's why they do it at the start as well. So they go, right, okay, dads or whatever. Here's the old stuff. Right, get that out of your head. Now here's all this new stuff. Buy it all, buy all. Look, you can make a diorama like this.
They do
I'm
have
sure
one
that's
of my.
part of it, 'cause it is a business.
They have one of my favourite old classic miniatures, or at least they did last time I looked in there, right near the start of the exhibition. They've got the old classic zombie dragon, and not painted in the horrible green style that was on the box art. I'm pretty
Is that
sure
the one
it's
that's
in.
sort of like that with its neck? It's like,
It's fairly low down, like
Yeah, and
crawling
it's
along,
like-
and it's in a really nice kind of pale colour scheme, like white and
Yes.
bony coloured. It's a really nice one. One of the favourite jobs I've seen on that particular model, sitting right there, and that inspired me to try and get one of them at one point. But they are quite expensive to find.
Well, Atom, whenever you come, there's a place
Mhm.
for you to stay right here. I live about half an hour away. Annie lives about 2 minutes away. But it would be wonderful if you could come and visit us, and we could have that adventure in Warhammer World.
Yeah, no, I definitely am looking forward to it. I like I said, I finally, at the age of 48 or something like that, finally got a passport, and then I needed it to go to Canada because I was going to the grand opening of the new building that the mini wargaming folks did for their channel, and that was in June of 2019. And then my wife and I were hoping actually to come to the UK in 2020. But now we'll see, maybe 2022, and we'll see how that goes if we're allowed in. Yeah, that's something that I think would be a lot of fun. And I would like to come by and check it out. So I've heard a lot of good things.
Now,
what's
looks-
nice about living in Nottingham is that people tend to visit here a lot to go to Warhammer World. So since I've been here, I've met so many other people from the hobby because they're always like magneted to Nottingham. They're like, hello, yes, I am here, yes.
We've looked at lots of old stuff just now, so if we jump to something that's so new, in fact, it only went live the minute we started the show. Kickstarter, which I just spotted literally before we went on the air, and had to grab it and just have a look at it. So I've barely seen this either because it literally just went live. So goblins, dwarves, and bully woogs, which are presumably these frog creatures. So let's have a look. This is from Warplock Miniatures. Digital
Warplock.
Workshop, printed. So
Yeah, they're on their second or third edition now, aren't they, of stuff? He's a Nottingham-based guy, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Before the war, I used to see him every few weeks or so, but obviously haven't seen anyone anymore.
those very characterful, not particularly cartoonish looking wolves there, which
Very
I quite
cool.
like. And sproing beast riders. That is
Those are
a,
pretty cool.
that's like a giant flea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very
Wow.
nice.
We're working on a top secret project as well, me and Warplock.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
Does it involve miniatures? Can you tell us that much? Oh.
that was the one question I thought you could ask. Like, does it involve miniatures? It's like, I'm not going to tell you anything about it, but you can have one question. Let's see, 2 miniature companies.
But
We've got to better make this good.
This one guy carves out all these miniatures himself. There's so many.
So he sculpts traditionally and digitally. So he does quite a mix at the moment. And now he seems to be doing a lot of the jumping on the STL thing.
And
So I don't know if
would you-
that's what this is.
What's
So
Ah,
it's
it's the
capybara?
capybaras.
Capybara
Yeah.
cavalry, giant
Yes.
battle guinea pigs, essentially.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are these printed, or are these STLs that you buy and print yourself?
So let's see. Let's see if it actually tells us in here.
With his resin, his dad does all the casting, and his dad's the nicest man in the world. Up in Yorkshire with a flat cap, just casting them out.
Delivery
Wow.
costs added separately, so there must be an option to have them actually sent to you. But I would
I saw the word
assume,
printed in there somewhere.
yeah, I did see printed at the top.
Is it interesting?
There.
I-
Interesting indeed.
Hmm.
Is that the future? Annie should know.
So I guess if he's doing it on a small scale, when people have tried to do printed on a large scale, it just all goes to hell.
Yeah.
And I just think, well, GW don't do it, and there's a reason. So, but if you're doing small scale, yeah, I guess it's not too bad. But once you've got a lot, then just cap it.
Very
But it
characterful.
means for him, it means I guess that if he's doing a smallish and maybe niche sort of stuff, you don't have to invest in all those molds because you normally have to sell X amount to make your money back and all that. So if he's just doing a few bits, you can go, yeah, here you go, print them. Either print them yourself or I'll print them here. So
Here's some examples
is
of just the
interesting.
raw printed miniatures here. Looks nice and high quality to me.
yes.
So yeah, everyone should go and check this out. And we will keep an eye on that. Let's see when it runs to, so people know how long they've got. Let's see here.
Maybe we could get him on the show, Alex.
Yes. He'd love it.
Runs for 1 week, by the looks of it. So there you go.
I can give him a shout if you want to.
Yeah, definitely.
We shall have another look at that. Maybe next week. Who knows?
I bought a zombie ogre off him about 2010 or something, and he was in college and he was selling them on the Warhammer forum.
Wow.
Oh, that kid, he was like 17 or something.
Wow.
And now it's a nice seeing people grow.
Amazing.
was
I've
like,
got
"Oh."
some of his halflings I bought in 2011, actually. Oh, well, look at that halfling there, though. That looks familiar.
That's quite a halfling. What kind person could have given you that halfling for Christmas?
It might have been a person who loves witch hunters, who likes to play the witch hunter character Victor Saltspire in Vermintide. Could it be you, Andy?
It could be. And what's that the halfling witch hunter is standing on?
The halfling witch hunter from TT Combat is standing on a bad Squiddo treasure pile. Just a couple of pieces there from the set, which includes.
Fine piece.
They're really nice to paint, you know. Actually, I did. I'm not. Do you know when you have to put soap and hot water on them? I didn't do that. I just put loads of black paint to start with, let it dry, and it seemed to work.
To be
okay.
fair, I've never washed a resin model in my life, and I've
Always
never
wash
had
resin.
any paint come off any of them. But yet I see people on all the Facebook groups saying, I washed this for 6 hours and look, the paint doesn't stick to it. So I don't know if these people are just cursed or what.
I got a toothbrush and I put it under hot water and I scrubbed it, but it didn't seem to make any
That's
difference.
probably
So I just thought,
alright.
I was just going to paint the thing.
I think it just depends sometimes, so we always say do it just in case, because if you invest all that time and then it goes weird.
I want to know what
What do you
Platinum thinks about
Casting
this.
was good though, wasn't it, Rem?
Dusting,
Casting.
the casting.
Yeah. You were like,
Just
oh,
perfection.
let's get rid of the mold lines, but there aren't any.
No, there weren't any, and there's so much detail as well. Like if I looked in that little pile of treasure, there's so much stuff that I should have or could have painted and I didn't. But there's cups, there's saucers, there's a violin there, there's jewels, there's goblets, as well as of course the silver and gold and doubloons.
It's all
Atom, would this
hand sculpted as well. It's like,
it's beautiful, man. Atom, would this be allowed in your hobby cave? These two characters.
Oh yeah. No, I don't do any kind of like RPG stuff, so I don't like end up with much in the way of well, I mean like scattered terrain that you see like kind of coming out of Mantic, where there's a lot of little bookshelves and things like that. But the treasure for objective markers and things like that in any kind of fantasy game, I think, would be spectacular. You know,
Nice.
That's what I use them for.
I've got an Empire army. Well, what do you call them now? 3 people? No, City of Sigmars, but I've
Mhm.
also got a halfling army, which could be an empire army. So I've got the equivalent models in halfling. So I've got, a halfling rocket launcher. I've just recently bought this Oriental. No, it's actually a Middle Eastern halfling rocket launcher team from TT Combat as well. So they're pretty cool. But yeah, I've got a sort of an old 8th edition halfling army that could be used as an empire army. So I don't know what it's doing. It's just sitting in my shelf behind me at the minute. But look at
Old
that.
World comes back, Aram.
Do you recognise him, Atom, on the screen there? Who do you think that is?
I don't
Devilishly
recognize
handsome.
that. Don't
Devilishly
recognize that model.
handsome. Do you recognise the person that it's modelled after? Maybe.
No, I don't. My screen is kind of small though.
I'm disappointed because it's me.
Really?
That is Remington that's my character in our world famous role playing game, which was The Forest of Rem.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
What you can't see is that I've got a tail and horns because I've been touched by the chaos gods, so to speak.
This was created on, I believe it's Hero Forge, I think it's called.
Yep.
Where you can create your
Oh
own
yeah.
from the custom parts, put them all together, change the pose, put instruments in their hands, give them horns, tails,
Mhm.
different kinds of feet, and all that malarkey, and then you can 3D print them. And community legend and official Andean Rem Show graphical artist Bat Zuka of Radbat Designs behind this masterpiece. The mastermind
in
You
the
can
behind
also
this.
now get them to have them as digital models for things like Tabletop Simulator and stuff like that now too, which is kind of cool if you're playing,
Cool.
like a role-playing game with your friends and using Tabletop Simulator or anything along those lines. You can, create your character and then in full color and the whole deal, and then not even get a printed version, which is an interesting idea in the business model. I think that's
Wow.
Really
done.
cool.
Yeah.
Actually, we very in a small way we covered the simulator thing, but what do you think about it now? I mean, Andy's going to deep dive into more of it because we hope to play some Age of Sigmar maybe. Did
Mhm.
you get to do any gaming on it
Yeah,
itself, or did you just check it out?
I've done a little bit. A friend of mine, his name is Malev, and he works with Metal King Studios, and they make Relic Blade. And so he's been giving demos. I originally met him at the Las Vegas Open 2-3 years ago, and he's a painter. He's on Twitch as well, and he paints predominantly their stuff, but he also paints a lot of Age of Sigmar stuff as well. And but Relic Blade, he was teaching me to play Relic Blade using Tabletop Simulator because he's in Utah on the other side of the country, and so that was my first kind of foray into it. And I've also played with VJ Morph, who's a viewer of my show and a lot of other shows and things like that over from Australia. And we played Blitz Bowl, which is the kind of the slightly simpler version of Blood Bowl that GW makes. That I don't think you can buy it from GW. You have to buy it from certain retail stores and things like that, or at least over here. But I got to be honest, like I appreciate that they make it, but as a person who's a workaday graphic designer, user experience, user interface, a lot about the program itself drives me a little bit nuts as far as like the usability and like even the music in the background when you first are starting up just a lot of things that rub me the wrong way. But I'm glad it's out there. Once you get past that and you start to learn the interface, it can work actually pretty well.
So can we get on it now and then just choose an army and just play with that, or do you have to upload stuff yourself and you have to,
There's
have to
kind of
manage
like
it all?
I want to say it's like a marketplace. And there's actually some things you can buy, but there's also a lot of things free out there as well, where you can, like for Relic Blade, for example, he's taken the time. Sean Sutter, who is the designer of Metal or of Relic Blade, because he's sculpting 3D, it's very simple. In the computer, it's very simple for him to then just take those models and put them into a system like Tabletop Simulator. If you want to play Age of Sigmar, Games Workshop's not putting their figures into Tabletop Simulators. You've got to find somebody else who's figured out how a way to do that and then like uploaded them. I remember looking at one point and there were a bunch of models from the Kill Team expansion called Rogue Trader that were available to use in Tabletop Simulator, and they were very, very well done. And then I realized that what it was the models in that game. If you went to the website back when the website still had Rogue Trader on, which I don't know if it does anymore, they would have those 360 spins of all of the models that were in the game. And if you use something called photogrammetry, I believe is what it's called, it's where you take a bunch of pictures, two-dimensional pictures of a three-dimensional object, and then it turns it into an actual three-dimensional object that you can then put into a thing like this. And somebody had just gone through and grabbed all those images from GW's website and then made all of the figures, and they looked great. And they were painted, in the GW style and all that stuff because they were just taken from those images. But it's still not ideal to just be like, oh, I want to play Age of Sigmar, so I'll grab a bunch of this and a bunch of that, because that stuff's not available. But it's interesting, and it's a thing that I think to some degree, once people can start going back out and playing again, in person, you're going to see it sort of die down again. But I know there've been plenty of tournaments out there for both 40K and Age of Sigmar, and I'm sure other game
Adam,
systems.
you think if Games Workshop were to get involved and get on board, it could be a big revenue source, wouldn't it? Virtual games of Age of Sigmar that's endorsed,
I think that they focus so much on the physical that they're not that interested in the digital. Now, they obviously have licensing for video games, things like that, but that is on their end, them just saying, yes, here's a bunch of assets, here's a bunch of artwork, we have to okay everything, and then you write us a check. And so that's
Free
a
money.
big thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of work on their part to interface with these companies and check it. But yeah, it's far less work to get that money than it is to, create new battle tomes and to make new models and all that kind of stuff.
But I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, because look what happened with Total War. I mean,
Well, they could pair up with a company that was doing that sort of thing and license it out. Or they could be working on their own. They could be looking at it thinking, yep, lockdown, could be working on their own thing.
I get people asking me all the time if they think that I'll be, if GW will ever make like STL files that you can print and all that kind of stuff. And I just don't think that that's in their, I mean, maybe way, way down the road, but I don't feel like that's in their best interest.
I can't see it, but then I couldn't have seen anyone do it not that long ago, and it's fairly common now, so maybe, but...
I mean, trying to find a 3D sculptor to do work for you right now is nearly impossible, because the majority of them all are doing their own Patreon now, and so they don't need any incoming work, and they certainly don't need to work with a jerk art director like me who says, "Can you make the boots a little bootier?" Or something like that. And so instead, they're just like, "Look, I'm just going to keep making 20 or 30 new models every month, and people are going to keep." Giving me money to do it, and that's I just made a video about this a couple weeks ago. It's a great situation to be in. But on the other hand, if I'm trying to find a 3D sculptor to sculpt me some STLs and I want to pay them to do it, I've reached out so far to 4 or 5 so far that have just been like, yeah, no, I'm really busy doing my Patreon thing, so I'm not interested. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I'm glad that they're making money, and it's cool, because as little as 2-3 years ago, these folks were all basically fighting over the scraps that were coming from the game companies. And now they don't have to, and I think that's cool. So
now they're just making the miniatures they want.
Yeah, they don't have to deal with any of the manufacture either, because they're just selling the STLs, so they can just sit and sculpt.
From what I've been told, that's not necessarily always the most ideal. I've been told that there have been some Patreons that are a little notorious, not the patrons themselves, but the sculptors, who are a little notorious for making a model that looks amazing until you try to print it, and then it becomes a little difficult. But I mean, we've had that with how many different companies out there where you're like, yeah, that model looks amazing. And then you actually get the sprues and you try to build it, and you're like, why do I have to glue the beard on separately? Why is that such a tiny piece, and all that kind of stuff. So
good eye now for spotting sexy renders, basically, and then going,
oh, sure.
Yeah, that's not going to print. Nope.
Yeah. So
but you get people that have come from like video games where you only have to make it look lovely on screen. But yeah, then you print it and you're like, wow, that sword's like a sewing needle.
I mean, do you need like the best printer on the market to be able to do that kind of stuff?
No, honestly, these days for 3D printing, especially if you're trying to print miniatures, a lot of you need a resin printer, and as opposed to there's the 3D printers where there's like a big spool of plastic that's known as a filament printer. A resin printer's got a tub of resin, and there's like a light that's shining a shape for each slice of the model as it goes. And it used to be that those resin printers were $5,000, literally less than 10 years ago, and now you can get really good results with literally a resin printer that might cost you $200 to $300. So there's great options, but it is another hobby. It's not just like, oh, I go home and I push a button and
Yeah.
models fall out. It is another hobby. So you're kind of, if you're interested in starting another hobby, then that's something to do. But yeah, it is the thing that I'm finding that I'm enjoying is that I've got friends who have resin printers, so I can say, look, I will pay you to print this thing because I want this thing, and then that works out, and then I don't have to buy a resin printer and figure out how to make it work. That being said, resin printers are easier to use than filament, from what I've been told, but they also, can be a little smelly. Like the resin can be a little stinky, and then there's,
So Atom and Annie, let's say I buy one of these printers. How much does it cost to buy one of these STL files to be able to make the miniature at home?
Pretty cheap from what I've seen.
yeah. If you don't want to support one of the Patreons, let's say, those Patreons for most sculptors these days run around $10 a month, and then you get anywhere from 10 to 20 models every month.
Wow.
But let's say there's like just one model that they make, or maybe there's 4 models that they make, and one's on July and one's in August and whatever, and you really like those, but you don't care about the rest. Most of those Patreon folks will then take those models after the month is up for their patrons, and then they will sell them a la carte on there's a big website called My Mini Factory, where is the kind of the biggest one in the industry. And then you can go through and say, I just want this file and that file, and you download them, and then you can print as many as you want.
There's quite a lot of free ones out there as well.
Sure, you get what you pay for.
There's My Head for free out there though.
Oh well, that's good.
I can't. I should give him a shout out, Mr. Big Tong, who is the guy who sculpted that banana that's all over the memes, where it goes, buy a 3D printer, they said, and it's like a banana warrior. He made an addition, so there's an Annie head that works on bananas, but also on Space Marines. He did some cool guinea pig heads as well, so yeah.
Big takeaway that I've got from all this is that if Mr. Remington would like to have himself incorporated into a 3D world or a miniature, best way to go about it is to get someone with a specific software to capture you performing a 360. I believe that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So
everyone really enjoy that.
Now, Rem, you have accused me of not painting miniatures.
Many times.
What about this? Walking Dead, All Out War, the game.
Ooh.
Zombies.
These look good, Andy, to be fair, man.
You sound surprised.
So, yeah, wow. What's tell us about these then. Is this the whole party, or is it?
Well, there's some more coming up in the next picture. But this game was just sitting there in Annie's bargain bin, essentially, waiting to be disposed of humanely. And I thought, you know what? Zombies, they can't be that difficult to paint. I'm going to rescue this, and then maybe we can play that at some point. So there are the first.
Are you selling that? And I said, fine, take it if you want.
Yeah,
Andy,
so just nice, simple to do.
The guy on the right with the orange cap on, he looks like an old tour manager I used to have called Gus.
Did he have one arm?
No, but he had gout.
Well, that's pretty much the same thing.
He did have gout.
Nice, there's some nice tufts you've got on those bases there. Quite like them. They're good.
Yes, I wonder if they're available from Bad Squiddo.
Yes, they are! I'll be damned! How could I not recognise them there? Gamer's grass tufts available from Blood Squiddo games. They are my favourite tufts, though. That's why I sell them, because they're ace. But yeah.
Some more zombies here. So
I like them on the grey, because they're a bit like weeds that have come up.
Yes.
So this game then, is it zombies against humans?
There are humans that I'm working on right now. I've got the humans in front of me, only base coated so far, but they're not going to take too long. The painting technique on these is a pretty easy one, but I think effective. So base coats, a white dry brush over everything, then Agrax Earthshade over everything. And if you want to do a darker tone on anything, like for example on this guy's skin, then just add multiple layers of Agrax Earthshade.
That's great, man.
There you go. Very simple. And this one actually, with the kind of red, pinky kind of suit is contrast paints as well. Contrast paints underneath before the dry brushing and then the agrax over the top.
Interesting. And the guy on the left, the granddad on the left, it looks really well done. You know, with the browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very simple. It's basically the Remington dusting technique with a nice bit of washing after it.
I knew that would catch on. Yeah.
So you're painting them base colors and then dry brushing just white over the base colors and then throwing?
Yes. I find that if you put the dry brushing on last, then the highlights, the contrast between the two colours is a bit too stark. But if you put the wash over the dry brushing, then it kind of tones it down and brings it all together a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be almost like a glaze kind of tying multiple colors together a little bit. Yeah, that's cool. That's a very good idea. So,
done very quickly. These 6 were actually just... Yeah, what's these ones? These were done in just a day of painting, pretty much. And if anyone knows my painting speed, usually it would take me like a week to do 6 models generally. But these are very quick and easy to do with that technique. And...
Oh, to play in it. 'Cause I had that box for ages and I did really want to play it. I played it at the Mantic Open Day and it was fun. And I only bargain binned it because I was purging my belongings like I always do.
I did crack open the rulebook to make sure it passes the eye test, and it does.
It does.
There's no weird background fuzz to speak of, so we should be able to get into that quite easily.
It's cool seeing them painted as well. And I like playing those sort of games with painted minis. I've still got my fully painted mice and mystics here that we should play at some point too. They're all nice. And it's very storytelling. I like doing the mice voices.
Are you going to give us an example of one of the mouse voices right now?
Could do. And they said, no 360 please, Rem. And then the other mouse said, oh, go on. A small example there. My skills.
I'm sure we're all looking forward to hearing more of that in the future.
Yes. Be a new show, Mice and Mystics playthrough. Yeah, it's very narrative. You have lots of narration.
Interesting.
Yeah, someone in the chat, Jasper, hello Jasper, says, as a periodic sufferer of gout, well, what about it? And I didn't mean to offend anyone. It was just I didn't get to finish off the story. Gus, the tour manager, used to drink a pint of Baileys every night, Baileys and cream, which is a very, very strong.
Baileys?
Yes,
like
Baileys, a pint.
like
it was
Irish cream.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he'd have a whole pint, and so he was a lovely guy. He's so funny. But yeah, he used to drink that, and he'd cry out at night because his foot was playing up. He used to walk around with sandals on and shorts everywhere. We went to Canada, we went to Chicago, went to anywhere in the world. He'd wear these shorts with his sandals on. That's the reason why.
Does Baileys cause gout?
Well, I'm not an expert, but I think fine foods and liqueurs and wines don't help.
What? That's why I don't have gout. My super noodles. I'm safe.
Yeah, they do say it's caused by too much good living, don't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's as good a note as any to round off the show. Sums up the evening nicely. What do you mean, you're the one who's normally itching to get out of the show about 40 minutes before now.
My dog is driving me crazy, but tonight I've took him for a walk, I've bathed him, I've fed him everything just so I could come here and just relax.
Maybe the dog has been tuned into the show and has been soothed by the voice of Uncle Atom there.
So Atom, where can we see you? Where can we hear you next?
Let's see. I'll have another video up Friday on YouTube, and then on Friday that goes up. I think your time it goes up around 8 a.m. usually, and then 10 a.m. my time, which is, if I do math in my head very quickly, about 4 p.m. your time. On Friday, I do a Twitch stream that goes for about 3 hours. I also do one on Monday nights as well, but that's pretty late for most of you folks because I think it's like 1 a.m. when I start for you guys. But yeah, so, and then there'll be a every other Sunday show on Sunday, and actually I've got a busy weekend this weekend, so but yeah, it's it is a it just keeps moving forward, and eventually we'll get to go out and do things again, and go to conventions and see people and stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
But, Atom, we're so thrilled you could join us tonight. What have you enjoyed the experience?
Oh yeah, always.
It's fantastic.
Said
So what are we
no.
doing? What we must be doing something right to get you on the show. What brought you back?
Generally, I think that, and it's the deal with the majority of content creators, very frequently it comes down to personality. It comes down to, do you like listening to them tell you a thing or tell you a story or explain a technique or whatever. There are plenty of, I've listened to podcasts before for games I didn't play because I liked the hosts, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So personality goes a long way. And so, yeah, I like you folks. And so that's, it's always good to be here.
And
what you
meant to add on to the end of that was that you agree with me that our show is essentially a beacon guiding people away from the rocks during these dark times and towards hobby fulfillment.
That was implied.
I mean, Atom, I've got 4 things written down. So thank you for your advice. I've got consistency, which I think we have. Okay, it's very thick with content. Okay. Talking of content, number 2 on the list I've written from your advice is content. I think we're ticking the box there. Number 3, personality. I mean, it's all about personality on this show, isn't it, Andy?
Sure is.
Okay, we've got Mr. Dry, Andy, there, and you've got Mr. Wet here, and we've got Annie there, full of life, bubbly. And then the 4th one, I've got do 500 or more videos, then relax. That's what I wrote down.
You still can't relax after 500. There's no
I
relax.
don't know what the relaxing part yet.
Unless that's the 500 in 1 year, then you can probably relax for the last couple of days of the year.
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
We're on show 148, so another 362 shows, and then we can count ourselves in the sort of league that you are in, Atom, maybe.
And then just coast.
Now,
absolutely.
As we slowly wrap up the show, people may be wondering what's happened to What the Hell Is That? Well, it is coming, but as I knock something over in front of me while waving my arms around, so you may have noticed that these shows don't generate a whole lot of comments after the fact. The live chat is just a hive of activity, like a swarm of people in there communicating non-stop, essentially spamming it, but in a good way. So I want comments coming in after the show as well. So we're going to end the show with What the Hell Is That on the screen. And then the first person in the permanent comments after the show who correctly identifies the miniature hidden in this week in a stack of pancakes will be the winner. And then we'll look at it next week and announce who won. So generating engagement, they call it. So
that's what they call it.
That's how we're going to wrap the show up. So if everyone would like to say good night.
Oh. Thank you for having me on again. Oh, Vince in the comments said I was a regular now. Oh, Jasper rather. He said, "Wait, is Annie now officially a host on this?" I'm just inviting myself. I've got nothing else to do on Tuesday nights, so.
Well, I've been pushing for it, Annie.
Yeah.
So, I
think I should, unless it's a boring topic, then I won't bother. But yeah.
But then if people don't see you on, they'll know that you think it's boring, and that'll automatically just dampen the whole thing.
Well, Andy, I think the true litmus test for Annie would be to look at some war scrolls together. How about that? Let's see how she reacts.
That'd be lovely.
Isn't
a little nap.
The thing that actually put Remington to sleep live on the air that one time?
Oh. You need to link to that again. It needs more views.
Well, I think if people just search Remington asleep or Remington sleep on my channel, then it will pop up. It's right there. So, thanks to Annie for joining us yet again. Thanks to Uncle Atom for joining us for the first time in a while. And I'm sure it won't be quite as long before the next time.
True.
And thanks a little bit to Remington, I suppose, for showing up eventually tonight. And let's have a quick look at the episode thumbnail. before we go into what the hell is that, because I spend hours slaving over Photoshop and you're going to look at it, quite frankly. So, all that remains to be said before what the hell is that begins is good night out there. Whatever you...
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.